Welcome to the show, everyone. It's the morning show, live at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. It's Jason here. We've got Brittany on my left. Good morning, Brittany.
Good morning.
Hottie. Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah, right. Pardon me while I just fix y'all.
I was about to say this is her jam right here. She knows what she's doing, folks.
Jam and bread.
We're live right now, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, also live on TikTok on my left, and of course we've got the Zoom open, and we're just having a great morning, fantastic morning. Are you having a great morning? To be determined, TBD.
Well, here's the thing.
Tell me about it.
I'm all about having great mornings.
Okay.
But I don't know if, I've not had a negative morning whatsoever.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good way to preface what you're about to say.
Yeah, I'm just tired.
I'm just tired.
Yeah.
What's going
I'm
on?
very tired. I stayed up with the young people.
Were y'all having life talks on the couch?
Yeah, life talks on the couch with everybody. And before I knew it, I was in the bed looking at the clock, and it was 1 a.m.
Oh!
And let me tell you something.
Is that why I got left last night?
Dude, I tried. I tried to wake you up.
I apparently fell asleep on the couch.
Anna tried to wake you up.
Did you?
Daddy, come to bed.
I don't remember a single bit of that.
No, you were out cold. I just turned all the lights out for you.
Yeah, like I woke up about 3:15 this morning and I was like,
Anna told somebody
that's going to be a rough one.
Somebody who was staying, I think maybe it was Austin, or Alina. It was Alina. Daddy sleeps on the couch. I was like, you need to be careful. People are going to think we're having problems.
See, what happens is Daddy's an old fart,
Yeah.
and he falls asleep on the couch,
Yeah.
And he apparently is a difficult person to wake up. Apparently, I don't know.
He'll have a conversation.
I just
with you.
woke
He
up,
won't
my
remember
iPad
it.
was on my lap, and I was like, oh, I remember being here now. Okay.
He'll tell you. I'll say, hey babe, I'm going to bed. Okay, I'll be right there. He has no recollection of saying that. Like,
My intentions are good, people. Aren't all our intentions good?
hopefully.
Hopefully.
Some people know.
Some of you were
but-
suspect of, or sus of you. I'm just
Good
kidding.
morning, everybody. On a good note, the show has been going 5 minutes and no yawns yet.
You didn't see the countdown mark.
This is true. This is true. I don't know if you were in here when we were talking about young people. It was a late night. I'm going to be yawning.
Mm-hmm.
Nick woke up crying in the middle of the night. Right back to sleep. Never told us anything.
What's this now? Is this a
So
story
we can
about
fall
Nicholas?
asleep anywhere. Yeah, it was that Nicholas woke up, took a drink, went right back to sleep.
Oh, okay. Well, thank God he went back to sleep. Sometimes you don't get that luxury
Well,
at
you
that
know,
age.
my kids actually stayed up with us too. So the kids were up. Our kids.
Were they?
Yeah, they were up.
Bad decisions,
I
people.
know.
I'm
And
just
so they were deliriously tired. And so when they fell asleep this morning, I was going downstairs and I looked back at the bed. Adley had set up, was looking at me. And I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be interesting. And she just looks at me, grabs the blanket, flips it over her shoulder, and lays down. Like,
Atta girl.
yeah.
Atta girl. Well, let me ask you something. Since you had a powerful conversation, apparently.
Did I? Oh, with the
Well,
young people.
lasted till 1 a.m. Mark, we got one in. What'd you guys talk about? I'm curious. Catch a brother up.
Life. Growing up.
Yeah, but like, come on, give me something.
Um,
Give us something good.
I shared. Let's see here. We talked a lot about. We just talked about funny things too, like shared funny TikToks, that kind of stuff. The only thing that ended up being in depth is we talked about the idea of growing up, and how the dynamics of your relationship with your parents change. And so we talked about
Okay.
keeping that level of respect, obviously, but the dynamics changing from being the kid in the house to the adult outside of the house, and how that relationship looks that way.
How does it look now, Brittany?
You know, now it just looks kind of how it is. I think it kind of naturally changed. But I think as you grow up, is when you're right there at that age, when you're at that 18 age, right? Or you're just moving out. It's kind of I don't want to call it a bumpy road, because it's not that you have like, well, some people have conflict, but it's just,
Malachi.
it just takes some adapting on
Okay.
both parties. And so we got to talking about that, and I just kind of shared just different things I've told young people. I don't really know how we organically went to the conversation, because
But isn't that the best conversation?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you can't have a roadmap for family talk.
yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's
true.
awesome. But like
was a good
I would go as far as to say
Billy can fall asleep anywhere. Yes, he can. Jason is similar to him, but I actually think Billy's worse.
have you ever like heard of those techniques that the military, they teach their people how to fall asleep instantly so that way they can get rest when they like, I think I could do that. I really good. I can just fall asleep. Do you think that your relationship has changed after having kids with your parents?
With my parents?
Yeah. Was that a dynamic change? Was that a monumental thing that maybe changed the dynamics a little, or no?
It did. Yes, it did. And like I said, this has to do. Here I go again.
Here we go again.
This
On
has
the
to
show.
do with a positive. Like, I don't have a negative story, but yeah, I think it strengthened our relationship. Because we already had a good relationship. So yeah, definitely. But also on the flip side, and young people hate to hear this. I hated to hear this, but like that idea of you don't understand yet, kind of thing.
Like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I
You just don't understand. Anyways, sorry. Sorry.
I haven't finished. This
Actually,
enough for the.
that's not the same song, but there was a.
was gonna keep moving.
No coffee could fix that mess up. Okay, anyways.
I'm in the middle of a story, and all of a sudden I get flip turned. So
upside down.
There you go, redeemed.
My gosh, I'm redeemed. We are talking about family.
Yeah.
Life talks.
I guess we are.
All that in between.
Look how organic that happened.
Stevie.
But yeah, I think the young people don't like to be told that they don't know something yet. Like, that's frustrating because it's like...
Because they think they do.
Not necessarily.
Oh, new information.
I don't think that... I mean, there are some things that they definitely believe they know.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they so desperately want to be accepted into the older group that they hate being told, oh, not yet, kid. You know what I mean? Like, not yet, kid. You know, oh, you'll get there. You'll just wait. Oh, just wait.
I understand. Okay.
Really,
I understand where you're going now. Yeah. Okay. I do get what you're saying.
That's frustrating. I actually don't like that. I don't do that.
I don't either.
I don't do the whole, oh yeah, just wait. Because let me tell you something. And I share my advice on things. I share my experience, rather. I share my advice if it's asked for. But I share my feelings on things, and I share how I would approach it. However, I always try to give young people the respect of, this is your life, right? Like, and if you feel like, you know, hey, I shot for that. I took my shot later. I kind of stayed a kid longer, you know, and I didn't do that till later. However, you know, the reason why I didn't do said thing till later is because A, B, and C. But this is your life, and if you want to try it sooner, then that's because, you know what? Everybody's time here on earth is set different. And so I'm not going to judge somebody for going for something a little sooner than I did or something. I don't know our timelines.
One word.
What?
Autonomy. People want to maintain their sense of autonomy, in the sense that, for instance, well, you're one of these. In other words, because I'm dependent. I can't. In other words, who's to say my opinion actually isn't actually the right one?
Yeah.
Broski.
We've talked about,
you know what I mean?
We've said something similar. If you act like to a young person, you know, this is how you have to do it because I've mastered all things. You know, it makes you feel like, well, then what's the point in me if you've already lived?
Yeah.
If you already lived your life. Like,
thank you for living my life so well.
Yeah, like if you're, you know,
I wish to one day experience my own life.
Yeah, I mean, imagine that. Let that sit in. Like, let the idea sit in of, I'm sorry that you could have lived my life better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's not a good feeling. So I try hard to make sure when I'm talking to young people that I don't make them feel that way. However, I hope that they're the kind of person that learns from somebody's mistakes, right? Like, learn from somebody's mistakes or successes. Learn from their successes. You don't have to learn the hard way in things, in all things. But yeah, just some little things.
Ooh, we got some comments.
Kiana said she noticed my good morning, by the way. She noticed her relationship with her dad changed when she got married. Absolutely. I will say marriage changed my relationship more than kids.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But a lot of that consists of, not everybody would have the same story. I got married very, very young. So it was Brittany's not a kid anymore. Brittany's married. You know what I mean? Like, it was like really fast. So that was a different dynamic, kind of learning that Brittany's an adult now, not a kid.
Yeah.
That took some adjusting. And there really wasn't, it's not that there was pushback or, you know, Brittany have a curfew.
Yeah, sure.
It's just more or less, I think there was a lot of grieving because it's not the way
you or your parents?
My parents, my mom, mainly. You know, there was some grieving over, oh my gosh, my baby. But it was never really unhealthy though. She was always, hey, I'm sad that part of things are done, but I'm so happy that we're gaining another member of the family. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy that we're, you know, and she was very quick to point out, and I'm so happy that, you know, you're here with us. Mm-hmm. You know, like that's, you know, she got married and moved to Tennessee when her parents were in Michigan. So definitely could have been different. And so, But yeah, that definitely the dynamic changed, and it took some adjusting. But I think you have an opportunity as an adult to get to know your parents if you have that relationship that's positive, to get to know them in a friendly way. You know what I'm saying? And really glean from them.
Yeah.
Really glean from them. Okay, let's
Got
see
some
here.
comments. Let's see here. Kayla says, yes, we love autonomy. Mark says, when I started a learning moment with "This Is How You Do It," I always sing at Montel Joy. That's how you make it memorable and stick, Mark. I appreciate that.
Yeah, having kids change my life
Kayla,
more than marriage.
What did Kayla say? Having kids changed my relationship with my parents more than marriage.
Wow.
It made me reevaluate a lot of things. Okay.
It does make you understand things more, or be firm in your boundaries more. I heard somebody told me the other day that was just like, they said, I learned how to be a good parent because I didn't have that. So I learned what not to do. And then I came from the other side of the table that said I took things that were instilled in me and I'm passing them on. Like I had a good relationship with my parents.
Yeah.
But in anybody, I don't care if you have an amazing like we have an amazing family. But I'm still different. I parent different.
Yeah.
Like I don't parent exactly the same. But yeah, it does change dynamic. I'd be curious kind of Mark Henderson's perspective on some of this, because he has older kids.
Right.
From a parent's side of things, how that made him did you have to kind of remind yourself that, hey, they're not that small anymore.
Yeah.
Or like,
they
can't
have
even.
kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I even told, goodness, we were talking about that. I said, y'all, when my kid, when Anna Joyce, morning, when Anna Joyce.
Were you here the whole time?
All these young, yeah, she slept up in the.
Okay.
I haven't slept in my bed in like 2 weeks.
She's basically moved in.
But yeah, I said, when Anna Joyce gets her keys to her car and says, Mom, I'm going to the store, I don't really know how. I said, I will always picture her as that 4-year-old little girl. And so that will definitely take some, I can't even imagine.
I have an opinion on this in terms of like, okay, how has my relationship changed with my parents? I don't know that it's necessarily like, this is how I'm looking at it. Mother Teresa, if you're here, you can jump on. Okay. This is how I perceive my relationship with my parents. It has been the same thing, but dynamic, meaning that it's changed over time, being the same thing. And that is, my parents have always treated me to the level in which I acted. So what do I mean by that? I have this great story that I love. Like I love the last year and a half of high school for me, because a couple things. Number one, I was pretty much done with all my actual work. Okay, so it was pretty simple. Number two, I never missed, so I had accumulated excused absences. And what my parents allowed me to do, since I was doing that, I worked a job, I assume this is why they let me do this, they would literally let me take my own vacation from school. And like, I'm not saying like, hey, I'm out of school. Like, I used to drive from East Tennessee to Nashville and spend like the weekend with your family, or the week with your family.
Yeah.
As a minor. Now, is that for everybody? Probably not. But I appreciate the fact that my parents allowed me the opportunity to become someone that could be depended on in that kind of way. And that's kind of like my philosophy with like students, like children, anybody. I will treat you with the level of respect and trust in which you have demonstrated, and like guide you along the trajectory you're trending on. Now, if you're trending down, we got to tighten up.
Yeah.
If you're trending upward, I'm going to be much, much more loose with you. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyways. Mark commented, my dad was not around for me, so I said I would never be like that. Then I started working at the post office and started turning into him. Oh, wow. That makes that, of course, if y'all don't know the story that Mark had to go through with the post office, it's an incredible saga of just overcoming.
You were always an old man. That's what Teresa said.
What did she say?
You were always an old man. It's true.
You were always an old man.
Billy
You were
and I
always an
wrote
old
a whole
man.
song about our baby boy, how we imagine we will feel watching him grow, but we honestly won't know that for about 15 years. Right now, we are trying to train ourselves out of that job. Let's see here. It is extremely hard. Okay, here you go.
Here we go. Yeah. But yeah, Mark's story of where he's been through the past couple years and where he is now, it's an incredible testimony. Might have to get him back on the show again to share
Absolutely.
that. It was extremely hard to let them live their own lives and make their own mistakes. We started trying to control it, but always ended up with them going further the opposite way. Now we just had one move back with 2 kids and trying to let her make some of her own mistakes. Yeah.
I can't. I have a hard time imagining, yet I try my hardest to glean from people that, like Mark, that just said that, because I can't imagine watching my kid make a mistake, but at the same time, I'm going to have to imagine watching my kid because it's inevitable, and you know, I think that there is so much power in growth when you let them learn, you know, like you're there and you let them learn. But there is I would imagine, such a delicate balance.
It's almost like, I don't know if this makes any sense. It's almost like I'm going to let them pop a guardrail, but I'm not going to let them go off the cliff.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, oh man, you scraped up pretty good. You might need to figure out how to stay in the lane.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not going to I don't know if that's a way of thinking about it or not, but.
You know, and I try to do things now. Honestly, I try to do things now that would instill, because I tend to, I think we might make a mistake sometimes when we just help our kid along with everything when they're little. And so I try to not help as much in some things and try to get that tenacity, you know, and that I'm going to try to do it. You think you could try to figure that out? Do you think you could try to, you know, I know that you don't know how to try on your shoes, right? I know you don't know, but let me show you this here. This is how you do it. Now you try.
This is how you do it. I'm going to do that like for now on.
Now you
It's called
try it, you know, and sometimes that can get frustrating, but I try to instill that ability to try and do things on your own, but I also try to do it in such a way where I've already explained it. So I'm kind of keeping conversation, you know, between the two of us. Hey, you can talk to me about something. I don't know.
So
It's a delicate thing, parenting.
it is. And if you're just now joining the show, or you're like, okay, we didn't really have like a segue, it's because it naturally became the topic of today, as we discussed yesterday. Today is about family. Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about 4 key concepts this week. Yesterday was faith. Today's family. Tomorrow we're going to talk about health. Thursday we're going to talk about wealth. And then we're going to take the entire month of July off. It's a busy time, a lot going on in everyone's lives. And we are actually in the creative process of bringing you in August a brand new show format, how things are like. We just want to make it better. Bottom line, that's what you need to know, is we are looking to make this show better. And we definitely value every one of you that show up and leave your comments.
Tell
and
us if you have any
interact.
suggestions,
Yes.
too. What are your favorite
Please.
parts about the show? What's your
Yes.
favorite parts about the show?
And I'll tell you this, show us where you think this show is going. Show us. But that's an off-show topic because I love the flow that we're in terms of family. Kayla said, some of us only learn the hard way.
Very true.
LOL.
Very true.
You're not calling anybody out, and some of
I know
us.
who she's calling out. Adley Bray.
Well, that's facts. TJ says, at 3, Nicholas says, don't worry, Daddy. I know what I'm doing. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he falls, and I hope he realizes why Daddy said no to start with. At times it works. At times it doesn't. LOL. Mark said, there's a whole lot of better going on down in Nashville. Dude, that needs to be a commercial right now. There's a whole lot of better going on down in Nashville. Get here while you can.
Speaking of Nashville,
Yeah.
I got tickled. We were driving downtown. We were kind of on the west end, and we passed a big sign that says, "Make yourself at home." And I just wanted to yell, "No, no!" That's the problem. Is we've been too nice as Southerners, and now there's too many people.
The billboard should say, move over, and in parentheses, and please use your blinker in parentheses.
I just feel like the billboard needs to say, "We're full." Like Nashville, we're full. Unless it's somebody that I genuinely know and love, and then I'm like, move here.
Let's see here. We've got someone here on TikTok. By the way, good morning, Becky. Good to see you. And then we have someone here says, my kids are grown, and now I often find deals behind my back, but we're getting on the same page. Being on the same page is important.
It is very important. And let me tell you something.
Okay.
I speak, sometimes I feel like I sound a lot like an advocate for a young person, and I'm fine with that. Reason being, we have spent a lot of our adult lives pouring into young people that, we've just...
Matter of fact, look at them go. Our little ducklings.
Walking.
Our little ducklings are walking.
We've just... We have found that they are people we pour into a lot. And so, in our church work, we're in student ministry. And so I hear a lot about it from their perspectives.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I try to do, I never want to be somebody, I want you to be able to come to me about frustrations and feel like it's a safe place.
Yeah.
But I also want you to understand I'm not going to chime in about your frustrations with your parents, right? Like, they're your parents. And as much as you're frustrated with them, unless we're talking about some kind of abuse situation, that's a totally different, I'm not referring to that. I just mean you can't seem to get on the same page with your parents.
Yeah.
The one thing I try to do in that young person's life is I try to remind them that their parents are human. And because it's so easy to feel as if or it's so easy for them to feel like the parents is like they know everything, right? Like they're not giving me the freedom. They're doing this. They're da 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 da. And it's like if you could just kind of, maybe they're doing that, right? But if you could just remind yourself, even in your frustration, they are human, and this is their first time going through this too. Even if you're the third kid, it's their first time dealing with this with you. You are a unique person, and it's different depending on the kid. There are some fundamental things with raising teenagers, but really it's based on the person, their personality. So this is their first time dealing with this too. And so if both sides could approach things in a way that brings about grace for the other. And so I just try to be that voice for that young person that's like, hey, listen, give your parents some grace. That they love you, understand their intentions, and give them some grace.
So I will tell you this. I want to preface this to be understood. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes I teach better by demonstrating what I don't know than acting like I do know it. Like I think authenticity beats expertise almost every day. And I just dropped my pen.
You're fixing to drop the mic.
Don't drop the mic. That's what Bishop T.D. Jakes told me. But you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I'll be honest with you. Talking about being on the same page. Mm-hmm. How many of you parents, sometimes you don't get on the same page? And I'm not saying like in a bad way, but like we've kind of had conversations about, how to back each other up, how to
Yeah.
approach parenting. Like I don't know if like behind the curtain, the parenting conversation. There's what we're doing with our kids, but then there's the back stage, so to speak, of like, hey, here's how we're getting on the same page and in agreement. And sometimes that's not the case, and sometimes you're just not going to do it right. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, didn't we share that on the show about that whole Cracker Barrel deal? I embarrassed Anna. Didn't realize that I did.
Yeah.
But I embarrassed her at 4 accidentally because she was shy around her crush. And it did not register to me.
But in your lens, all that mattered was at this point
Compliance.
Compliance. You this is the right thing to do and you're not doing the right thing. Like,
Right.
This is the right thing to do and you're not doing it. So if you're not going to do it, then you're going to lose
There's going to be consequences.
there's your consequence. You're not going to be able to do this. And so I admired that it wasn't a forced thing. Even as you were frustrated, you didn't force her. You're gonna do that. It was like, all right, fine. You're not gonna do that. That's okay. But you're not gonna be able to because then it's like, hey, it's okay. You can do that.
I will let you make a choice, but understand there's
there's a consequence. But then I explained to him,
Yes.
hey, listen, I'm seeing it from a different vantage point.
Yeah.
And I'm understanding that she's actually not defying you. She is frozen in embarrassment,
Yeah.
And so
she explains it to me, and I apologize to her.
Not in front of Anna.
Yeah,
I explained this to him.
This is to the side. I didn't apologize for my point. I apologized for my delivery.
And not recognizing what was going on.
So, but I'm just gonna be honest.
Which, by the way, all parents are gonna make that mistake. Like,
I agree.
That doesn't make you a bad parent. Like, you're not gonna know the situation.
I agree. And here's the deal, though. Like, I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but I legitimately have zero problem admitting I'm wrong. I don't know if that's good, bad. I don't know if that makes me whatever. But like, if I'm shown a correction, I welcome it. Like, I'm not God's gift, and I'm never going to be it. I hope that somebody would, Now, granted, if you're just being a butthole and you're just being picky, that's a different conversation. But when somebody can bring something to me with love and correction in the sense of,
I think you're wrong about that.
Help. Yeah, right. But that's what, like, I mean, if Brittany says that I did that I didn't just immediately, I was like, what do you mean? Like, tell me more. Like, I'm not disagreeing, but like, I'm not understanding. I tried to understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, right? But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I have no problem with that.
Well, I'm a woman. I
pick up on
immediately
things.
understood what was going on. If we're raising a son, that's a different dynamic entirely in how to manage that situation.
Probably. Probably.
Yeah, there is no probably. It's different.
There's no probably.
So, and that's to say you're going to have, girls that are more in touch with their emotions and girls that are less in touch with their emotions. You're going to have guys that are more in touch with their emotions and guys that are less in touch with their emotions. However, there is just some telltale differences. Been around a lot of kids. There are some and I've been around a lot of adults. And so, like the difference in the female dynamic definitely matters. And so for him, that's why he didn't see it. He's not a girl. He's not, and so that was a way. But also, though, dealing with those things, I think help as these kids are older, how you deal with where you stand with each other. For instance, having that conversation away from Anna. She doesn't know we're having that. I didn't stop him and say, hey, wait, Jason, wait, and go to the corner and have a conversation. It was not obvious.
Step back from my daughter.
Yeah, it was not obvious that we were talking about that in front of Anna. He finished what he was doing, and I just leaned over, and she was off doing her own thing. So that, I think how you are in your marriage is very important in how you parent.
Yeah.
Because your kids see the way that you treat each other. They see the way you talk to each other. and they see the way that you stand together or not.
That's true.
And so I think that is very, very crucial. I think it's important. There are times that Jason and I, we'll have a very passionate conversation about something completely, like, this is not about each other, but I'm passionate. There's been a lot of topics of interest over the past few weeks that I am very, very passionate about.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about issues in this world that I am passionate about, I get fired up.
I think our neighbors think we're into it.
That we laughed about that because I was talking to him
We're
and I
on
was
the
like,
front porch, and she's like, "Now let me tell you something.
"Oh,
this
I
is wrong.
was pointing at his face. I was like,
She's fired up, dude.
If you're telling me that you can't, and I'm like explaining this, and Jason's just sitting there shaking his head because he's agreeing with me. He's like, "Yeah, you're right."
Well, I'm agreeing, but let me
Yeah.
tell you something.
You're right.
She is not looking for a conversation in that moment. I don't know if
I'm
you
looking
guys
to
know
vent.
that, but sometimes
Yeah.
your wife is not looking for you to jump
Sometimes
in
you just need
and
it out.
fix anything.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just I hear you. I hear you.
And
You're
so,
right.
Yeah, we have that
You're right.
conversation, and Anna
Man, I hear
sometimes
ya.
will get very upset about that. She'll come in, mommy, daddy, mommy, daddy, don't talk like that, and so we try to let her know
No,
we're
no,
not mad at each other. It's fine, it's just.
Tell her we're acting because she loves acting.
Oh my goodness, yeah, everything.
Acting.
But yeah, I think those things, setting those boundaries with yourself. But this goes back to why we have this show. I feel like this show always centers when it comes to family, right? There's a lot you can learn from other people about how to parent, how to have a healthy marriage, how to communicate better, all of that stuff. But it all circles back to the main thing, and that is you as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, if you don't knock your pride, you're not going to parent better. You're not going to have a better marriage. Now, if you don't knock your sensitivity, you're not going to parent better. You're not going to have a better marriage.
Yeah.
If you don't, this is a you, and that's
I want to talk about that. I want
as
to talk
for me
about
in my
that
house.
because there's a unique story that I want to share about that.
Unique.
I did want to throw out here, Martinez, glad to have you here on the show, sir. Hope you are doing well. We've been enjoying seeing Malachi there.
Yeah. I'm going to tell y'all something. You guys really miss out on a lot with the Zoom because Malachi shows his little face every now and then. And let me tell you something.
It's magical.
He has dimples that will make your heart melt. Like when he looks at you and those little dimples.
He heard you.
I know.
He went, yeah.
I am a sucker for little dimples on a baby. Like it's just so precious. Yes.
Yeah.
We're talking
Yeah.
about you. Okay, move on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Before the whole internet hears my baby voice.
But I did want to, with you being here, any feedback or additions or anything you want to add to this conversation?
Well, I love the discussion on family and really, the parenting part. And I heard several people talk about being on the same page with their child. I think Karen had mentioned that, and that put me in the mind of when you say the same page. I say, well, when I think about family, I think of it like a unit, and family is typically brought together through marriage or, adoption or some type of process that makes you one unit. And I was thinking unit, being on one page, it put me in the mind of the scripture that says how, and I'm paraphrasing, how can two walk together unless they first agree,
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, a family has to, I guess the premise of a family is like walking together in agreement and a unified unit. Malachi, calm down. Calm down, sir. And
He's got a lot to say.
Yeah, he's got a lot to say. Get that from his mom. But the thing about it is, I was thinking, family as it relates to, and I don't mean to derail from parenting and that kind of stuff like that, but I was thinking about family in terms of, I think to have a family, you have to, it helps to be intentional, right? It helps to actually desire a family.
Yeah.
And I just remember, certain scriptures, how like when it came to creating, a family, it started with, seeking someone in your, the book of Levi talks about a Levi man seeking marriage from someone in the Levi household,
Yeah.
So it's like, people, that's the beginning of unity, that's the beginning of being intentional. That's the beginning of trying to like create something great, or family. And so that was my mindset as it relates to family. It's like, the start of it. It helps to be intentional because guess what? Everything you all were sharing was great, but if someone doesn't understand the concept of family, the concept of being unified, guess what? I'm going to be less inclined to humble myself when it comes to things I don't know. I want to be the guy that is smarter than everybody. I want to be the guy that doesn't come across wrong all the time, and so like family requires obviously, a degree of humility if you want to move toward the idea of creating a family, if that makes sense, and so I just thought, and like, as it relates to parenting, that all you said doesn't even get off the ground if, again, someone doesn't have a heart for family, doesn't have like a heart to respect the wife and the husband or each other. You know what I mean? It's like this desire to actually be one unit, to be on the same page, that, my mind was just running around as you all were talking about family. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's great. But Malachi won't ever understand what it means to have his input valued if I don't understand, if the people who are instructing him in the family doesn't really respect each other or respect, because if I don't respect Robbie, then I'm not going to respect anybody else's input. It's like a spirit, you know what I mean? That kind of like, in my opinion, it kind of like bleeds into other areas of our relationship. It's like one begets another, it's like disrespect here begets disrespect in other places. Pride here begets pride in other places.
Yeah.
So it's like, this, so like being like, being a family requires to me, like, at the ground floor, intentionality and being like valuing unification, unity, and and which requires respect. But
well, to your point though, if you don't respect Robbie, how are you going to respect, in terms of Malachi, how is that respect going to be, kind of translated or whatever? I'll take you the next step too. If you don't respect Robbie, Malachi won't respect Robbie. Do you see it? Yeah.
And how about,
like, how you treat your spouse in front of your kids will determine how your kids treat your spouse.
Oh,
like time and time again. If I talk down, this is why I have a hard time with certain types of shows. The other day we were watching a cartoon and they said, I literally turned it off. They said, today is Father's Day. What's that? And the mom says, oh, honey, it's like Mother's Day, only Mother's Day's a real day.
Was it Peppa?
It was.
Peppa Pig, we don't give two rats farts about your show. You're done.
I immediately turned it off because, listen here, if you don't respect, if we allow content in your life that trains you to look down on your dad, or he's an idiot, or you're not going to respect him. If I don't respect him and I talk down to him and I'm demeaning and diminish who he is, my kids inevitably, you know what I'm saying? And so I value the importance of their father in their life. I value that. That is real. It's invaluable. It's, so I would never want to be a part of the issue where they're going to butt heads with their dad because they've kind of, had too much exposure to lack of respect, and vice versa. And so,
Brittany, I love that, but like I started thinking too, like you had to have that mindset,
yeah,
right, before you actually got into a relationship, before you actually, got married, because that's not something you just pick up after you get married. You mentioned something earlier, and that is, it all comes back to the individual,
Yeah.
And like before you get married, again, how do you start a family from the ground floor? It starts with individuals, and like if that individual doesn't have respect for things that you respect, it might be a good chance that you all are going to butt heads if you decide to be married and create family with this person, and
Yes.
So it's kind of like, and people, I know family is like a loose word a lot of times, gang, people are saying a gang's my family, the police is my, the job is my family. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, the thing about it is, all I'm trying to say is, like, in the traditional family where people are brought together through marriage or adoption or something like that, like, respect as an individual, it makes a difference where that person is as an individual, in regards to what they're how they respect the, like, not just you, but their mom, but nature, mm-hmm. God, that mm-hmm. kind of thing. Because I always think about, like, why, is it a family if the family is not unified? Is it a family if you're butting heads with each other all the time? Mm-hmm. Is it a family if you, like, have these tectonic plate disagreements? Mm-hmm. Like, what is a family? What is it? And so I'm thinking to myself, as a family, it's implied peace, that there's going to be peace there, that it's going to be a haven for safety. It's you're your own gang, so to speak, Mm-hmm. But what you're talking about is, like, again, like, if Martinez doesn't have respect for God, Martinez doesn't have respect for law, mm-hmm. Martinez doesn't have respect for his neighbors, how good of a marriage partner would Martinez be?
Yeah. I will say, if you're a single individual, 100% pay attention to everything in that regards. How they treat their family, because I will say, in terms of, for me with family is family. It's who you're blood related to. It's, whether it be who you're born into, who you're adopted into, who you're married into. It's your family. But this goes back to, what kind of family do you want? Right? This has to do with, we chase prosperity. We want to be prosperous, which means I want my family to grow in joy, love, and happiness, and wealth and health. I want it all, right? I want all of that. I don't want money if it means I have to sacrifice my family on the altar of money. I want my family. But I have to admit, the respect portion, if I'm being completely transparent, it would be great if you could go into a marriage with the respect thing down. I didn't. In fact, the first 3 years of our marriage had to do with, I'll be the first one to say it. The first 3 years of our marriage had to do with me being very demeaning, and unintentionally. Because I would say things. Why are you looking like that? You remember?
I don't.
It was.
Yeah,
but you're not God, and you can't forget.
No, I don't know.
So,
Hi, girls.
Here's the thing.
Continue.
I remember hitting this, like, brick wall. Basically, we just kept hitting a wall. And
Figuratively.
he came to me and he was like, "Look," because we would just fight. You know, it wasn't horrific. We didn't break things or whatever, but we would argue a lot. And so he's like, "Let me tell you how I feel." He's like, "And please know my heart behind it. Please know my heart. I know that you love me. I do." He's like, "I do, but I don't feel like you respect me." He's like, and I don't mean, like, I'm not saying that, you know, he felt like he had to defend the word respect because unfortunately the way that society is now, women have a hard time hearing you don't respect me because then their statements back is you have to earn it. And it's like, actually that's not biblical, but that's another story. And so as I'm listening to him talking, I had just had a conversation with my dad about, I feel like we're kind of not on the same page. And he was like, maybe you should read a book called Love and Respect. And so when he brings up respect, I'm like, all right, God. I see
all right,
you.
God.
I see you. You're doing something, you know. And I realized in that, as we read that book, we read it together, I had no idea that some of the things I was saying, it was just destroying his confidence in how I felt about him. You know what I'm saying? Like he knew that I loved him, right? But he didn't know if I admired him or appreciated him or valued what he brought to the table in our relationship. He didn't know that because my humor, unfortunately, at that age, and listen to me, I don't do this anymore. My humor was sarcastic. I can't stand it now. Like when somebody's humor is to tear somebody down, it ain't funny.
I will say, most, if not all, conflicts that we've ever had to deal with dealt with people using sarcasm as friendship building.
Yeah.
And saying that's just how we do
We banter.
until it don't work. Because guess what? At the end, it never freaking works. So freaking cut it out. Do you understand how bad I hate sarcasm?
I do too.
It never,
it's rude.
It never long term works.
Because it's passive aggressive.
It's all fun and games
Until you get your
gets
feelings
out.
hurt,
It's
and
true.
now all of a sudden, every little thing that somebody said that you've held on to and thought, oh well, it comes out. Am I right or am I right?
But he doesn't remember when we were. He doesn't remember when I had sarcastic humor. I really wasn't horrible, I will say. It's just, anytime I had humor, it was because that was my defense mechanism because I was hurting. You know, like, hey, I felt a certain way and I responded this way. Or I'd just go for the jugular, you know. And so there's been a lot more years of me kind of figuring out how to talk and the dynamics of the different, you know, he's a man, how I speak to him matters. I'm a woman, how he speaks to me matters. There is this language that women desire and men desire. And so hacking that was incredible. But
Venetian.
yeah. What?
And I'm a men are from Mars finger. Anyways, just kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
So yeah, but anyways, son.
Son.
But yeah, just
When
those
you
things.
said learning how to talk, I
Yeah.
started thinking, like, you're exactly right. Like, there's a certain way, and sarcasm, by the way, is like, you know, they're saying, like, there's a little truth to every joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, you know, the sarcasm is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like raping people against the coals and then laughing about it and being like, hey, I'm just joking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But,
I'm saying to you what I don't have the courage to say to you face to face, so I'm just going to hide it in a joke and hopefully you pick up on it. And guess what? When they pick up on it, it's battle time.
It's kind of passive aggressive.
It is
It is
passive.
passive-aggressive.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, after 15 years of church ministry, 18 years, I'm telling you, sarcasm don't work. Cut it out.
Yeah.
Sarcasm is definitely not the conversation for kings and queens who are trying to build kingdom building.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're in the bit. I mean, like, I have this thing, like, there's king talk, there's queen talk. There's ways that, you know, king talk, queen talk, you know, there's some things ought not be spoken of. There's certain things that should not ever taste the lips of your mouth as it relates to your wife or your children or your, in other words, you got to learn how to talk like you're doing something great. That because you are doing something other that you've never done before in this world.
Yeah.
And you can't allow the world's conversation to bleed into your conversation. So how would a king talk to his queen?
Yeah.
And how would a queen talk to his
I was literally what, why?
You're my queen.
Oh, okay. I was literally going to say how society, the standards of society and what they think is not the same. You have to really dissect it and say, how do I want to set the pace in our marriage, in our house? And so for me, I'm talking like we evaluate, we're careful of things that we say. And I'm not saying like you don't have to be, uppity, or things like that. But for me, I don't use humor or share intimate things about each other to other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, our bedroom is our bedroom and it has a door. And I don't talk about what happens behind said door. And I certainly don't make jokes about behind said door. And I'll chuckle with anybody over maybe a lighthearted office reference, but at the same time, if everything out of your mouth is vulgar or somebody can twist it to vulgarity, then you're diminishing intimacy. And now you can't be intimate with your spouse because everything's a joke. And now I don't have the intimacy that biblically is meant to be between the two of you because I've made lighthearted humor out of intimacy. I'm telling you, it's a destroyer. So it's fine to have little chuckles every now and then, but if everything out of your mouth has to be taken, from the gutter, you're actually destroying what happens in the bedroom. You're actually destroying that intimate connection because then you can't get serious. And down to the fact that when you speak to each other, I'll leave intimacy. The kids can come back in the room. When you speak to each other, it's funny to sit there and talk and be like, yeah, we were late because you know how the woman is over there taking forever. Okay, that's downgrading. You know what I'm saying? Or Jason, he's gonna get everything he says backwards, but you don't ever compliment what he does positive. That's diminishing. That's demeaning. That's degrading. Like those things. We really, 13 years, we're careful what we say. And I appreciated it. Somebody commented, y'all look like the perfect couple. Thank you very much. We're actually very far from perfect. But what you're seeing is a lot of work that we actively
Well, I'll tell you something
do.
that's interesting about this conversation that you're talking, you ever heard of the expression, at the water cooler, water cooler chatter, So the question is, it's where you go and quench your thirst. Are you having conversations at the fountain or are you having conversations in the gutter? Because that water's nasty.
Yeah.
That gutter water's
Literally.
gross, but fountain water, it's fresh.
Yeah.
It's satisfying. So just a good question to ask yourself. Are you having gutter talk or fountain talk?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you this too, to that point when it comes to vulgarity and stuff. You get so comfortable with it that you just talk about it in front of anybody and everybody, including the opposite sex. And I'm going to tell you right now, the enemy will find any way to get into your marriage and wreck your marriage. And comfortability as a married person with somebody else who is not the person you're married to, and that humor is kind of okay in front. I'm just telling you right now, I've been in church ministry since I was 3 years old. My parents pastored. I've seen it more times than I have fingers to count it. It's the crux of what can destroy a marriage, comfortability. And so, those are things that are just, they're no-goes for us. I don't,
Comfortability or vulgarity?
Comfortability with vulgarity.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the idea of, if you can have inappropriate conversations with somebody that's not your spouse, for me, I'm like, and I've seen it. And I'm the first person, like if that's a conversation that's happening, I'll be the first person to have a reason to leave. You know what I mean? Like that's.
If I could share this, I think like a lot of stuff you could stop at the gate as it relates to, inappropriate conversation, vulgarity or whatever, disrespect. A lot of this you could stop at the gate if, in fact, you're with your spouse or significant other and you are having an intentional life. Like you like sometimes when you find yourself it's like a marathon. I gotta, 26 miles. I don't have time to kind of like waste my time like walking or crawling or doing things that don't get me closer to finishing the goal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or it doesn't have to be 26 miles, but any race, you know what I mean? And so all I'm trying to say is like, you're exactly right. And I start thinking like, it's so easy to kind of like dumb down and like, thank you, and actually lower your expectations of relationships. What was that? There's so many shows, that are on that give you that tell you what a relationship looks like. Back in the day, there was All in the Family or whatever. Archie Bunker, everybody loved him. It was a great show.
Don't sit in his chair. Don't sit in his chair.
And what was the other guy's name that had that always bemeaned his wife? Weird. It's not. And she had a lot of hair and she had a pretty daughter. What's that guy's name? It was Family or something like What's in the Family? Or,
All in the Family.
Well, that was our.
Was it All in the Family? Like Al, was a father's name Al or something like that. He was always sarcastic and like, oh, and she always wanted to like be. Anyway, get lost in the weeds. There's all kind of
Al Bundy.
Yeah, Al Bundy.
Oh, okay. That's
not Ted.
Yeah. If you watch that show, you were like, okay, this is how, is this what a family looks like?
Right.
And so like, but all I'm trying to say is like, one thing that we have not done a good job at, because we haven't had at least, like for example, my dad died when I was in second grade. So as it relates to marriage, and my mom never married. So what does a family unit look like? I don't know. But I know it doesn't look like a woman pulling the weight of the family, by herself. I know that much.
Yeah.
And so to Mark and somebody else's comments, I've learned not to be like that person because I never had someone to mimic, But anyway, all I'm trying to say is, like, wow, what would our families look like as far as reaching new heights and new levels if we were all more intentional about doing something that's great or focused on, like having goals, like you said. It doesn't have to, we don't have to like build a ship to the moon or something like that, or spaceship to the moon. It could be like, okay, we want to be out of debt as a family. Mm-hmm. We want to have $100,000 saved as a family. We want to, have all our kids go to college debt free, whatever that goal is.
Yeah.
And then because a lot of times I think we get kind of, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. Well, an idle family is a devil's workshop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
And so it's devil's army.
Yeah.
Y'all be acting all kinds of crazy.
I know we're a little over time, and I want us to read the comments before we close. Hey, listen, we're going to be off for a month next week, or this month, so we don't even care. We're going to go over time.
There you go.
But I will say this before we start reading comments to what he was talking about. When you find it that you're trying to immediately find the positive, right? I'm careful what I say. I'm careful how that, and you're able to have honest conversation. If I'm dealing with a hurt, I don't say something in a humorous way or a sarcastic way. I value him far too much. I value our relationship far too much. I would rather have an honest conversation about how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Because I respect him too much to just passive aggressively say it. We're going to have an honest conversation, as difficult as it may be.
By the way, she doesn't say it like that either. We need to have a conversation. It's never like that.
No,
ever.
No, yeah, right. But I will say this. I have found this little byproduct of this exercise that I do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I have found that because in my marriage, I always work to look for the positive. I always work to find the benefit of the doubt, see the other perspective, right? I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. We still have arguments. That's, it's not that we fight less. It's just we fight smarter. Do you know what I'm saying? So like
we have rules of engagement.
We do, yeah. Yeah, and respecting those. But I will say this. Here's what I have found. Because I am in a habit now of finding the positive, I have found that when I'm outside of my unit and gossip starts, I don't tolerate it. Because I'm so used to trying to find the positive in my family that I turn around and say, that does seem frustrating. But you know what? Maybe she was going through something. Or maybe he didn't realize how that sounded, and that's why. And so it starts in the home, and then as you leave the home, all of a sudden you realize, and you kind of have, it's like you have glasses on, where you're like, ooh, this is a negative conversation. We need to change the tides. And if we can't, we need to leave, And so I just found that that's like a little byproduct of just having positivity in my marriage, right? Like that was my goal. But at the same time, I have found I don't like to entertain negative conversations, period. And so
it starts at home. Everything starts inside the house.
It does.
It really does.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant there, but I just thought that's a very interesting thing, right? Like, yeah, how awesome would it be if it started in our home and then,
So we've got some comments here we want to read. TJ said, I would say most of my issues had been born chiefly out of my own defensiveness and oversensitivity. It's been a journey. Hey,
chiefly out of, wow.
Yeah.
Chiefly.
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 He said, ouch.
That's very true, though. Hurt people.
Oh, for sure.
And it's not intentional. Anything I ever did, I remember I cried to him when we read this book. I cried because I said, I have the thoughts that I've made you feel any of this way, disrespected, unappreciated, it breaks my heart because I love you so much, but I didn't realize that I was speaking a different language and I wasn't making that come across. Like it broke my heart.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, but at the same time I was hurt because he wasn't speaking my language and, we just.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark said, yes, my mother and father were great at that and had a terrible relationship. And then they would try to continue to spill poison to others. He and Marilyn both agree. We do not want to have relationships like our parents. My goodness. True, it is undefiled and needs to be
the bedroom
kept. Yeah, like for real. Like what is the what's really worth connecting over? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had this conversation with Brooklyn about that because she was feeling a little frustrated around company that was, and I shared that my passion behind humor that is, sexually charged, and she was like, this is a young person. She's like, Brittany, that's you're exactly right. I never thought about that, but that's incredible. It does diminish the intimacy that you would have with your spouse, and just imagine if that mindset, imagine how much stronger your marriage could be with that mindset.
What was that one preacher told us a long time ago? Didn't tell it, but he told your folks about, it wasn't even related to this, but the principle applies. He said, look, we all know that showers are taken, but I don't need a play-by-play.
Yeah, I don't need to sit in front of your shower and watch the shower.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. That's irrelevant. Mark, I like this. Being repeatedly late is a pride issue, Mark said, because you don't have the respect for the others that you are making wait. That was taught to him by a pastor. I agree. Like that is a big thing. Matter of fact, there's a whole episode on Everyone Loves Raymond about being late. Yes. Being late.
There's another show though. I cringe every time she calls her husband an idiot. Like it's like ugh.
What show?
Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh yeah. And then I think this talks about, Mark was talking about having inappropriate conversations with the opposite sex. It opens doors. I agree with that. Yes, it is. Like, how can something happen if you've not allowed it to be a potential? Like potential is potential, both positive and negative. TJ said, yeah, the danger of familiarity attacks so many relationships from marriage to ministry in general. Knowing your role, knowing your boundaries, knowing where not to go is the roadmap for safety. But over familiarity breeds danger. I agree.
100%.
Agree with all of that. Family matters.
Let me tell you something. I love that this conversation, there's so many people that agree with this. And to me, because I feel like these are the building blocks of a thriving marriage and ultimately a thriving family. I had a hard conversation with a young person several years ago because we had a marriage night at our church, and my dad had made the statement, you put your spouse before your kids. And that person had a really, young person, could not grasp that. She's like, it's going to be my kids before my spouse. Like, how is that even? And I said, no, that it's when you put your spouse first and he puts you first, then inevitably the two of you are going to parent better.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're as long as the two of you are filled up, then you can pour out into your kids. And I completely agreed with what my dad was saying. It was true. Mm-hmm. This is how to have a healthy marriage. If you get that, then your kids benefit greater from it.
Yeah. But
here's the problem. She's a product of a broken home. So she's a product of the lack of that order. Mm-hmm. But to her, she's like, that would mean that one of my parents puts the other parent first, who was not a present parent. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, so you're saying you put somebody first that's going to, downplay everybody else. No. Both of you put each other first and you parent together. The fact that there's so many people agreeing with the idea of valuing things in your marriage indicates that you're on the right track. We're on the right track, because I think that's a huge problem in society is homes are broken and kids inevitably are casualties of that, Yeah. How much stronger would our units be if we take time to talk this stuff out and live this stuff out? You know what I'm saying? Like,
don't bypass what's broken. Go fix what's broken.
I know. Like,
be prepared to overcome, not to sidestep.
Exactly. Every year we're married is a blessing for, as far as I'm concerned. It's because I married my best friend. And I never want anything to come between our friendship. You know what I mean? In that regard. And I always want to value marriage in that. So as long as you're on that road, your kids will benefit greatly from that. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Good Lord. 13 minutes over. Our preacher is showing.
Preacher is showing. Hey, be back tomorrow when we talk about health. All right, everybody wants to feel better so they can do better. That's going to be tomorrow's topic.
No sugar in your coffee.
No sugar.
I'm kidding.
Is that stevia or is that sugars? Anyways, we're going to talk more about that. Enjoyed this conversation. Why don't you continue the conversations on inside of your family, right? Have some meaningful conversations at the dinner table, all those good things. And we'll be back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, having more real talk. Talk to you later.
Over coffee.